All right, Warriors of National Guard recruiting, we have the great opportunity to have Staff Sergeant Green from the great state of Iowa with us today, and we're going to talk about how he does business. But before we do that, I would just like you, Sergeant Green, to just kind of tell us your National Guard story and your National Guard recruiting story. How did you arrive where you're at right now?
Yes, ESM. Thanks for the opportunity to be on today. So my Guard story kind of starts a little different. I actually started in the Marine Corps straight out of high school. I spent 8 years there, deployed, stayed overseas, finished my 8 years there as a drill instructor in the Marine Corps. Got out, was out for about 6 years before I joined the Guard. I was driving down the road, seen a sign about the National Guard. So Google knows all. So I Googled it, went into the recruiter's office that afternoon, talked to him, said I was a little heavy. So 5 weeks later, I came back, I dropped 56 pounds, got into the M-Day side, was there for about 3 months, started ADOS for First Sergeant Howard on Team Beast in Southeast Iowa. Did ADOS for a couple months and then got hired on full time. So this will be my 4th year recruiting.
And things are going well?
Things are going really well. Yep.
So I would just share with you the reason why I asked you to come on the podcast, because I feel like you're a unique individual in this way. The time that we spent together in Nashville, this is how you came off to me. Is I'm just going to grind and get this sucker done. And, you know, I think that's kind of the times that we're in right now. So your philosophy on recruiting, what would you say that is?
Well, we go by a certain set of rules on our team. We get introduced into the team, and the expectation is set right from the get-go from our NCOIC for Sergeant Howard. And then the team, the senior guys, kind of bring you in under their wing. We live by 4 rules, and those 4 rules, they roll through us every day. Number 1 is focus on the main thing. Your job's to recruit. The main thing is accessions. You got to find the accessions. That's your job. If I was a mechanic, my job would be fix trucks. My job's to recruit for the National Guard. So that's my priority focus. The next is no excuses. We can have the excuses, and yeah, there's days that are hard. There's times that are hard. Appointments are hard. But talking about that and constantly reliving in that negative aspect doesn't help anybody or anything. So we just, no excuses. You got to vent, get it over with, and keep pushing forward. Next is work as a team. We're a family, more so than just a team. From the new guy coming in, the ADOS or the newest recruiter, you bring them in, welcome them, because the faster I can make them better, or we can make them better, the easier life is for everybody on our team. Not just with the mission, but if they're pulling their weight, I don't have to recruit that number. They're doing their job, and I can trust them. And then the 4th and final rule for us is have fun. We want to have fun. Nobody wants to buy from a needy salesman, a desperate salesman. And by having fun, even if you're down in the dumps, as long as you're having fun, you don't look needy and desperate. You look like a winner. Kids feed off of being with a winner. So that's our 4 rules that we live by. And no matter what it takes, our job here is to recruit, and whatever it takes to get that done, that's what we got to do.
Well, that is, there's not much to add to that. That is like the secret to success in recruiting, is to accept the job for what the job is, get after the job, stay focused on the job. And so I like that attitude. And your team has done very well for a very long time. So that is working. So given that you're, I guess, once a Marine, always a Marine, your boss was a Marine too. And I would just make the observation that I've never had a Marine not be successful working for me in recruiting, because of that attitude that I'm going to get the mission done, regardless of what the mission is. So you're coming from the Marines and you join the National Guard and you do a couple drills. So you don't know a whole heck of a lot about the National Guard. So what was that learning curve like, and what did you do to fast forward your ability?
So the learning curve was immediate, obviously. Culture shock when I first went to the M-Day side, especially going from being a drill instructor was my last, stint in the Marine Corps, where the intensity and everything is a whole different breed. And I come into a unit, notice there's like what I would consider a lack of discipline, or maybe just a lack in the NCO world of understanding we set the standard and we hold that standard as an NCO. And then coming to recruiting, I did sales in the civilian world a little bit, so I kind of understood the hustle and grind. And obviously, I'm not going to be a drill instructor to somebody if I'm trying to get them to join my team. But I don't take the approach that I'm everybody's friend, because I want people on our team that want that challenge and want to be pushed. And I've had multiple appointments with individuals, and I stood up and told them that I don't want to recruit them. I don't believe that we're the best fit for them. What they're after in life, I don't think that we're going to give them. And I don't feel that they would be bought in, and it's just kind of saving the babysitting step, at taking that babysitting step out. And later they actually come back with a referral and thank me. They found another opportunity. I've helped them link with other people. But I always put the care, the soldier care, transparency with the applicant. That's first and foremost whenever I'm talking with somebody, because I'm in this for longevity. And if you get a bad rap just for a number, it's not doing you any good, and actually pays the bills better in the long run. If I'm taking care of somebody, that kid's going to remember it. That coach will see that. That parent will know it. And, some of the best referrals are from parents. You took really good care of my kid. I think you should talk to so-and-so's kid. And those work really well. So I used to be very strict, very rigid, very not the most approachable person in the world, just from the demeanor that you kind of adapt as a drill instructor. And that it doesn't just disappear overnight. It took a couple years for that to dwindle away. But I had to break that because I don't want to fail. I wanted to be successful. And the way to be successful is you just got to do the job. And I can't do that job walking around like I still have a campaign cover on. Cordial, but professional. And if you stay professional, you can't go wrong. So that, and then I found out that building relationships with COIs and VIPs, that is two people I want to talk to, people that can join and people that can put me in front of people to join. And those people that join, they're coming and going all the time, but those COIs and VIPs are typically rooted in the community. And those are longevity tools for us to use. And you're not just building a working relationship, you're building friendships with them. So I didn't struggle too hard in the adapting. I just stayed with what I knew as an NCO. I was an NCO more than I was a junior enlisted in the Marine Corps. I got promoted pretty quick, meritoriously. So I had a lot of experience as an NCO, and I just figured recruiting it's business, it's being professional, it's taking care of people. And actually last week in Nashville, when you were talking about creating our brand, how do you want to be seen as a person, as a soldier, and as a recruiter? I did a lot of self-reflection on that and tried to make sure that I'm honed in on that brand, and I never looked at it that way. I just am me, I suppose. But it's nice to have those outside eyeballs, so to speak, on your business, and you're looking at it that in that regard. So,
Well, that's a very good point on the COIs and VIPs, because we don't talk about it that much. And so new recruiters, you were a little bit older when you came in too, probably older than most of our recruiters, and really working on that on a regular basis, trying to add people into your network. And you have to do that the old-fashioned way. You got to go meet someone, shake their hand, get them the opportunity to know who you are and have the ability to see you be consistent over a period of time. Then they can be on your team and you can be on their team. We try very hard to have things happen in an automated way. Like I tried to connect with the person on LinkedIn. I sent the counselor an email. But the old-fashioned way where we're exchanging business cards caused me to have to be in front of that person. So I think that's a very good tool for people to take away from this. It's like stomping on the floor. This is going to be on the test type deal. Because I don't think we do enough of it. I don't think leaders ask about it enough. And it is, like you said, the teachers, coaches, administrators, the influencers, they're going to stay. We're going to get a new crop of students next year that are going to fall into our window. Something else that you had mentioned that I'd just like to piggyback off of is, because this is in my belief system, is the role of discipline in success in recruiting. My belief is you can't even be motivated unless you're disciplined, because you got to be disciplined to have the sustained behaviors that will produce the results that will make you motivated to cause you to be more disciplined. So coming from where you come from, what role is discipline in your success?
Every single aspect of it. I don't, not every day is somebody breathing over my shoulder, looking at what I'm doing. I'm charged to be an NCO and held to that standard. I have to hold myself accountable. If I'm not, then who is holding me accountable? I mean, from the minute I'm going to bed at night, setting my alarm for the next day, and I'm back planning for my day ahead, getting out of bed. I've got a newborn son. He's 5-6 months old now. That's a different aspect in recruiting because I'm running him to daycare, and I've got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old daughter that they've been on autopilot. They just go to school bus. So I've added a couple different things in. It's just that maturity level. I want to be able to call my own shot and run my business the way I want to run business. I can't do that if I don't prove myself. So every day that stuff keeps me in check with myself of, I don't want First Sergeant Howard to have to call me or have to come here and check on me every single day. He just knows I'm putting in the work. And he does a really phenomenal job of checking in with us daily, but not in the regard of, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? So it plays a huge impact on everything, even to just go to that school. It's easy. I'm in a pretty rural area, so I'm driving 45 minutes to an hour or more to a school. I could not back plan correctly and drive past a couple schools, either on my way there or on my way back. It's easy to just stay sitting in my vehicle. It's hard sometimes. You got to go out and, oh, I got a new superintendent. I need to make face-to-face with them. You have to push yourself outside your comfort zone to be better in that regard. So discipline is, I think, is the foundation of all of it, Sergeant Major.
And I think this is a little bit difficult for the younger recruiters to really get their head wrapped around. They want something to work right away. I did this school program. I call the questionnaires. That should be an enlistment right now. And sometimes it's not. But over time, it will be. And just understand, having that discipline, if we do the mechanical processes of recruiting every day, we're not going to have to worry about enlistments at the end of the month. Where we get off track is we say, well, that thing didn't work and that thing didn't work. So I'm going to throw those away when we really need to be disciplined and keep on doing them. You mentioned earlier that like the peer-to-peer accountability on your team is really important. And I was doing some training with another state recently, and one of the first sergeants said, like, when I was coming up, that was foundational, and we've kind of lost it a little bit. So I'd just like you to speak to that on your team, how that, what difference that makes on the team, to have sustained success as a team, because your team has been one of the top teams in the SMEG for several years.
I think it just it's huge because I see a lot of teams in the state that they don't have that. There's team members and they just worry about themselves. They don't look left or right. They don't reach out to help. They don't give guidance. It's maybe some would say the old way of recruiting. I'm doing my job, my business, and that's it. And I'm fortunate enough that I have my own area, and I have a teammate who has an area 30 minutes west of me, and we just became an internal team. We share our demographic, we roll together, and it works because there's days maybe I'm a little too strict, not approachable, and he's 10 years younger. We're so polar opposite, but we're kind of like yin and yang. We bounce off of each other. But I am a firm believer in peer-to-peer evaluation and critiquing. It shouldn't take an E8, a first sergeant, to come down and tell a sergeant first class, a staff sergeant, or a sergeant that you're messed up in this regard. I'm still an NCO, whether I'm an E5, E6, E7. As an E5, as a sergeant, I won't hesitate to let somebody superior to me even know that something's not right. Or, I always tell people, corrections go up and down the chain. It typically comes from the top down, but that doesn't mean that you can't make a correction up the chain. And we just, at the end of the day, if I have a peer correcting me on something, and if I am messed up, I hope they do, because I wouldn't want somebody to let me fail, seeing me because they don't want to hurt my feelings. And it's a business. I take feelings out of it. It is what it is. I will critique across, and I hope, and I know my team, we do it really well. We talk with each other. May not talk to every single person on my team daily, but weekly, a couple times a week, I will talk to everybody, and they call us, call myself and my teammate as well, Sergeant Stutzman. So it works really well, because then it lets our NCOIC have time to focus on things to help give us, tools to develop us. Maybe help build a COI in a situation or an area that may be a very big struggle, or we have a vacancy. Gives him time to worry about business in regards of the team, instead of those little things that we're adults. We can handle this on our own, as far as critiquing each other and helping each other out. So it just frees more time up on the top side.
And I would say for the NCICs that are listening to this and say, well, that probably wouldn't work on my team. The foundational part of that is it becomes the rule of the team. So
Absolutely.
you don't know anything different when you're a new member of the team. This is how we operate. This is what is expected of your conduct, which is a totally different thing when you're a new employee. Like, okay, this is how we do business here. That's how you get it to change on the team. So I think that's important. You mentioned that you're in a rural area, and so I'd be curious about what has been your approach to develop your area. You mentioned that now you and your internal team are working together now, but how did that progress over your time on in this battle space?
My first year, he had a year of experience on me. He had already been recruiting for a year. He brought me in open armed. He taught me a lot about recruiting and the process, recruiter zone, and all those processes. And he learned a lot of NCO stuff from me, just the foundations of an NCO. And owning our spaces, I just went in, and obviously I go on processing list, or I look in RZ and see, who's in the system already that we know. I'm the new guy coming in. I'm so-and-so, I'm taking over for so-and-so. This is my goal. This is what my vision is for the next 3-year outlook. And when I first started, I didn't talk past 3 years because was unsure of what recruiting was going to entail, a new job, so to speak. So I just said this is my next 3-year outlook. So they understood me. I come to them as a person, but I didn't stay with just those COIs very quick. I would go into the district office. I would go right to the principal. I'm after the superintendents. And now one of the goals this year for me is to host a PD day, a professional development day, in every one of my schools with every single staff and admin person in that school. That way everybody knows me, because in certain schools it's hard to get through down a certain hallway or up the steps. But if I can reach out to everybody at once, and that's paid off pretty significant this year with just teachers reaching out because they didn't know me or didn't have that exposure to me before. And just constantly trying to find another way to add value to the school. Well, we don't typically do a lot of PE events or carny or circus events. When COVID hit, everybody was pretty protective of their students in their school. So we figured we need to find a way to add more value, more actual life skills. So we do the ASVAB, the post-test interp. We do that. We go to history classes, English classes, and I'll be a lot of times in most of my schools, the AD, the principal, or the superintendent will come in and observe me as I'm teaching and smile. They'll come up and say a few words and say, "Hey, I know this guy. He's been around for a couple of years. He doesn't plan on going anywhere for a while." And that's coming from the top of the school right there to those students. So it's nice and you don't even ask for it. You treat the COIs and VIPs right, and they will work for you even when you don't expect it. We have our own areas as far as our zip codes and RZ, but we work as, if I've got, if Sergeant Stutzman's got 2 or 3 going up this week, just depends on the rotation. We do a 1-for-1, and we just keep feeding each other because we're a team. And it doesn't matter if he's got 5 this month and I have 0, I'm getting 2 to 3 of those, just depends on the rotation. But then next month, he's probably going to be a little drier and I'm going to be hitting on higher cylinders, and then it's the same. So we take selflessness. It's part of the leadership, the Army values. We take that serious on our internal team. It cuts all animosity out. At the end of the day, even if I finish mission before him or he finishes before me, we're not done working until the other one's done. And then even then our team mission, right? So we still owe 31 left for the state for our team. And our team is bought in that we will give 31 and more. And we just set that standard when they come in. It's kind of how we approach that. So,
well, I think it's something really important to highlight, because it's not just the rural school part of it. What you had mentioned was the value added. I want to add value to the school. So for recruiters and NCICs listening to this, how do I know what the school cares about? Well, I can look at their mission statement. I can connect with those influential people at the school and search for a problem that they want to get solved that we can deliver on. And that's one of the things that I don't think is in our approach. And our approach is, hey, I got a problem. I got to get into this classroom because my boss told me to. The people in North Little Rock told me to. The leadership of the organization are telling me to get into the school. When it is, what's their problem, and how can I fix that? I think that's a powerful thing. Also, when you're working with someone, having an office mission, you got to be grown-ups.
absolutely.
You really do, because at different times, someone's going to be producing more. But that contract that you're making with each other is, we're both going to put in the work. We're both going to put in the time. We're both going to put in the effort. And nobody is skating. And I think that's where people run into a little bit of trouble, because buddying up with someone will generate more enlistments. It's not the most efficient way, but it is the most effective way. But you have to be emotionally intelligent and committed. And I think that's where we end up lacking sometimes, where it's it would be great if we did an office mission, but if you don't have that commitment to each other that you're both going to work as hard as you can, then you're not going to make it. So I think those are really good points for people to grab onto and say, well, if we're going to do this, we should talk about it on the front end of how it's going to work and what we expect from each other, which is something we're just not used to doing. So yeah. Well, I think one of the things that's been going on the last couple of years has been really an openness to the difficulties of the environment and having the environment be the reason why we're not successful. So you mentioned that on your team, you got a rule that there's no excuses, but what over the last 2 years, it's been very hard to live up to the no excuse standard with Genesis and COVID and all that. So what has your team done and what have you done to make yourself live up to that no excuses mindset?
So it has been tough with COVID, M-Roads, Genesis, a lot of those checkpoints. And we struggled. We struggled tremendously last year as a team. Nationally, everybody did. And I think we looked at it as we finally pumped the brakes in June of last year. Our team rolled a zero. Our entire team rolled a zero for the first time. And we just stopped. We assessed what was going on. We assessed the changes that were happening. And we run our fitness camps in June as well. So we were all together. We just sat down and we collaborated and we said, this stuff is working. This stuff is not. These are the issues. What do we have or what can we do to get around those or go through those? And starting June, finished up and rolled into July and started producing. And then we just kept going. You're going to have a bad day. You're going to get called every name in the book by a parent. You're going to run into those times, those situations that somebody in the school is going to hurt your feelings by not letting you do what you want to do. You just have to look that it's going to be better tomorrow. It's going to be different tomorrow. And there's ways around it. We just got to step back and look at the situation. Sometimes we get so tunnel visioned on one thing that we're not looking around and saying, oh, but I could be doing this. So just see what happens. My job isn't to disqualify anybody. And we started looking at it like, oh, the stereotypical, I'm disqualifying everybody because of X, Y, Z. My job's not to disqualify them. That's MEP's job. My job's to get them there. And we just took that approach to it. And that's changed. That's changed the tempo of the team just a little bit. Is you feel a little lighter, a little easier to breathe when you have a win and you're like, oh, okay. And then you just keep going and keep sailing. So.
Yeah, and I do think that there's an old saying, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging, right?
Absolutely.
And I do think when things are going bad in that way, we have a tendency to not believe that we can get them turned around very quickly. But I just believe if we have a sustained period of time, 7 to 10 days of doing enough prospecting every day, we're going to have somebody to take the maps. We will. It works 100% of the time. We will. And we can trust that recruiting really does work. And we never have control over what has happened in the past. We can only do something moving forward. So I think that was a smart move by your boss to take that time out and say, well, it ain't working. Another thing that happened to us is it doesn't matter that if everybody else stinks.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's not license for us to do a terrible job because another state is doing poorly. You don't get a mission reduction when another state's doing really well.
Right.
Everybody's working independently. So That's good stuff. Well, the last thing that I always like to do when we do these interviews is, we have a lot of new soldiers on our force, and probably close to 40% of our recruiting force right now is on their first tour. So what would be the advice that you would give to them, the new people, just getting into the business, or maybe this is their first year, of how they can have some sustained success in recruiting?
Absolutely. I'd go back to some of the guidance from my NCOIC for Sergeant Howard is you can't speed up time. You can't speed up the learning. You're gonna go through those new growth pains. What you're going through is not brand new. Everybody's gone through it. Everybody at some point has gone through those. Recruiting is, hills and valleys. Everybody's gone through a valley. It doesn't matter that you're in the valley. It matters how long you stay there. As long as you just keep grinding, keep doing the right thing. You take 3 kids up in a row and they all get DQ'd. It's going to happen. It's unforeseen things. There are random things that pop up. Don't get discouraged by the setbacks. Everybody has setbacks. I would go with how you do anything is how you do everything. The way you get up in the morning, the way you shave your face, the way you approach your school, every little thing you do, it matters, but somebody's always watching. Social media limelight, be professional on social media because that can get you in a jam. And just remember that how you do anything is how you do everything, but ignore the noise. I recruit with the sense of, I understand I have a mission, but I don't think about that number every day. That number, it's going to be there. It's a weight that you carry for the recruiting year. Just go have fun, talk to people, tell your story, and talk to more people. And the more people you talk to, there's more no's, but you're going to find your yeses. Turn every stone. I would encourage reading the Jeb Blunt book of Fanatical Military Recruiting or Fanatical Prospecting. And there's a lot of good little golden nuggets in those that I pulled out when I first started that I understand it's not going to be a cakewalk, and I don't expect it to be a cakewalk.
I might have
Don't
to edit
expect
that
it.
out. I'm gonna have to edit that out. He's a competitor.
Oh,
That's it.
but there's some just keep your head up and understand you're going to get Genesis is going to come back and hit you with a laundry list of things that you didn't foresee, and there's other kids out there. That's not the only kid in the world that finally said yes to you. There are people out there that need you. You need to understand your value and your worth of what you're bringing to the table, and don't just bend over backwards for every single person. You have to hold your ground. I think a lot in sales in general, but as recruiters, we kind of forget what our worth and what our value is in recruiting. We're offering literal life changes to these young individuals and even older individuals. We just have to paint that picture and show them where they fit in it. So.
Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate you doing this. And keep on doing what you're doing. Hopefully we'll see you at another event. We're going to be in Vegas in July. We're going to be in Fort Worth in May. So I hope to see you then. And I think there's a ton of good stuff that people can take away from this. So thanks again, and keep on doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Sergeant Major. Thank you.
Yeah.